Hello, my friends. Big Mark back here again. This is part two of that first launch last show I did. I want to tell you about some other stories because I wanted to get this in. There's a little true stories about the Bergen and some of the episodes there in the early '80s. Now everybody knows it's been printed, it's been shown. John loved having Fourth of July for the neighborhood. Now this was a big party. This was sometimes 1,500, 2,000 people. They used to block the street off. And Green Bus Line used to run, and John knew the union guys from Green Bus Line, so whatever. So we're having a barbecue. We all chipped in. I'm talking about everybody. All of us in the club, Pete, me, Jack, cooked, stocked up. They got cases of food, hamburgers, beers, soda, whatever, and they would feed everybody. Now the fireworks. John had control. Listen, I want a great fireworks show. I want people to see it. I want to do it for my neighborhood. There's twofold effect. John loved it, loved the opportunity he could be able to do that for people, but it also give your neighborhood a sense of belonging. It's like a thank you to the neighborhood. And the funny thing about the 4th of July, the food was free. Hamburgers, hot dogs, sausage, chicken. At the end of the night, you had watermelon cup for everybody, beers and soda. If I tell you how many people we caught stealing food, beer, and soda and taking it home with them. Now you understand, this stuff was free. Me and Pete one day, there's a woman by the bank, hiding by the parking lot. She's looking. She must have had a case of beer, 4 or 5 trays of sausage and hamburgers. Somebody's going back and forth. They had 3 pits. You used to get 50-gallon drums, cut open with a rack on the side, charcoal, put charcoal, and guys used to man them. I did sometimes, Funzy, Jimmy Irish, everybody, Jackie, everybody, it was for the neighborhood. These people were stealing free food. Now you got to take a little insight there. It was free. What possesses people? You could sit there. So we went there, we grabbed them, grabbed the food, told them, listen. And Johnny came over and said, listen, I run this party for the neighborhood. You could eat and drink all you want. The club used the bathroom, come in, this is open to you. But this is to have the party here, not to make your own barbecue when you live 3 blocks away and invite your family over and we're going to feed them. You want to bring your family, bring them down here on the First Avenue. So one year, I got to get to the story, they had fireworks. Now, you understand, Johnny took donations. Everybody, wise guys, visitors would donate $102. Johnny made them donate to the kitty to pay for the party, and Johnny would match it. So say he raised or put money in. So say he raised $5,000 from the visitors, the wise guys that came. Johnny would put $10,000, $15,000 of his own money in to pay for everything, the food and the fireworks. All the people, us guys who helped out, this was just, out thanks to the neighborhood. So one day, somebody, Jackie, little Jackie, handled the fireworks. So it used to be in a garage around the corner. Sometimes they were in the basement of the club, which is where we had our mortar pipes to shoot racks of mortars and everything. So somebody, some little lowlife, wanted to ruin the party or whatever, bought fireworks off Jackie, and then told the cops. And the cops went to buy fireworks, and they pinched the basement. The cops came in. I'm talking about the morning of the party. The cops did this on purpose. Whatever. They're doing a job, whatever they got to do. They get orders from high up. They came in, they empty it out. They cleared out the fireworks. They arrest Jackie. They give him a desk appearance ticket, when he comes out a couple hours later. Now there's no fireworks. So Johnny says, Pete, take a ride, take somebody with you, go by Sammy's club. Now, Sammy Albano was around, Tony Lee, Fat Andy. John's daughter married his son Louis. Sammy was the fireworks guy. He brought him in that area for that crew, that area. So that's where Jackie got all the fireworks from Sammy. So Johnny says, Pete, go see Sammy. Tell him I need his fireworks. Sure. Johnny, we drive. Sammy's club was on Sutter Avenue in Ozone Park. I think it was 90th Street or 89th Street, right on the corner. Sammy sees me and Pete walk in. He sees Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up? He says, you got your fireworks? How much you got? So Sammy says, goes out to the garage, got a whole stack. I want them all. Sammy says, what do you mean I want them all? I says, Sammy, Johnny wants them all. Then I'm not going to have no fireworks to sell. Sammy, he don't care. You got this party. You got all these people. They just pinched Jackie and took all our fireworks. Guys, load them up in the back of the 2 trunks of cars we got. Sammy just sat there, dumbfounded, nothing you could do. So don't worry about it. Johnny will take care of you. Sammy says, I'm not worried about that. So good. But I got nothing to shoot off. So Pete says, Sammy, do I got to repeat myself? No, no, no. We take all the Sammy's fireworks and bring them to the club. That was John and his energy. He cared about the people. You could have took the pinch. Sorry, we had no fight this year. And his firework display, you had 10 guys, all of us. You had racks of mortars. There was, Crazy JJ. There was another guy, Trevor, who was a Marine, Paris Island, went to Vietnam, was, pure, a pure fearless guy. They would just blow mortars off. And this would go on for hours. And this was some display, and it was great. Johnny would sit out there in all his glories. But this is what happened. The day of the 4th of July, he got pinched, and he went and took Sammy Albano's fireworks. And Sammy had no choice because Johnny told him, this is for the neighborhood, not for you. That was, that was Johnny's thought process. I can't let these people down. I got to get it somewhere on 4th of July. So that's part of the, these events went on in the Bergen. This was, I can tell the story again. And Johnny'd always say, summertime, chairs out, people hanging out. Johnny would pull up. We was driving a black Lincoln town car at the time, and say, guys, say hello, get up, say hello to them, going on, Angel would pull up, they're going to the city, and you see Jeannie, Joey, Tropo walking, going to the diner for coffee. This is just everything, just good people, they weren't nasty to you, back then, if I wanted a job going construction, listen, Joey got me a job. I worked in construction in a laborers union. He said, Mark, why don't you go to work? Joey cared, go to work, earn some money. I guess he wanted to keep me out of trouble. This is, listen, these guys got a lot of people in the neighborhood work. And I'm not talking, didn't take no money off them. They want you to realize, in unions, laborers, cement, they put a lot of people to work. I'm not justifying their life, but I'm saying there was also positives. These people, I need a job. What do you want to do? Anything, labor. Get him a job driving a truck in a warehouse at the airport. That's all. Thank you, appreciate it. Nah, no problem. This is also a concept back then. And Johnny was notorious for that. There's a lot of guys that, no matter who, no matter what he did for his lifestyle, I never asked, never questioned. I only stayed in my lane and saw what was there. They had conversations about, these higher ups. I wasn't involved in conversations. I didn't belong there. I never forget, they were standing outside, Johnny and Angel talking. I forgot who they were talking about. They were talking. Joe Machine was there with his brother-in-law, Sally, and he said to me, and I was standing outside, I said, Mark, do me a favor. Go inside, take a walk. I said, no problem, sorry. And I walked away. I forgot who I was talking with. Maybe me and Jimmy talking, Jimmy Irish. And after the meeting was over, Angel came in and said, Mark, listen, if we're talking about you, something that pertains to you, trust me, you'll be in a conversation. You don't want to be involved in conversations that have nothing to do with you. All it do is get you in trouble. Guys don't, this is, so, it was some kind of semblance of, for a guy like me, I consider myself intelligent, well-read. That says a lot. So at that time, it was more of the attraction, but that story, the 4th of July story, that was John, and another thing about John, Johnny, who he was. I mean, he was fearless. He got into, it was notorious. The fight in Staten Island with the cops, got arrested, came to the desk sergeant. It was in a Staten Island paper. They pulled him over. Cop got nasty with him. Johnny hit him. And there was a bunch of cops. They couldn't, they went in front of the precinct house, the desk sergeant. This is a true story. Johnny's sitting there. He got bruises on him. There's 3 cops all fucked up. Johnny went to work, hurt them. Desk sergeant says, what's this? Let me see this. He looks, he knows, he sees the name, John Gotti. He says, he looks at the cop, he says, yeah. He says, well, what happened? He says, cop got an attitude, got nasty with me, young punk. Desk sergeant looks, he sees the 3 cops busted up, bleeding. He says, you did this to these 3 guys? He says, younger guys, half your age? He says, yeah, look what they did, took a swipe at me. I said, right. You know what, get out of here. Tells the 3 cops, how good are you? One guy did this to you, 3 guys. They let him go. They made the papers, but that's John. He fought, I'm afraid of fighting 3 guys. If he felt he was right, he leaped. So that's where I walked in. Most of us, not all everybody, most of us. I defended. If I was right about something, I didn't break any. I didn't want to break any rules. A lot of guys did. A lot of guys didn't. You got jammed up. You made mistakes. But if you felt you're right, defend your right. Defend what you're right about. That's what he was adamant about. Like I said, so we were nobodies. We were just associates. Run here, go to the racetrack for me. Go to send me to PJ Clark's. PJ Clark's a restaurant in Manhattan. I never forget. You understand something. Tony Roach. Tony Roach was driving a electric blue 74, 75 Caddy Coupe de Ville. Go to PJ Clark's. I put an order in. Johnny hands me $300. This is 1980, 83, 82. $300 for food. PJ Clark's famous. PJ Clark's was on 55th and 3rd Avenue. Been there for years. You should go there. There's a guy there called Jerry Beck. Jerry Beck is a friend. Part-time bookmaker. I know him from the racetrack. Good guy. I walk in. I walk to the back. You walk in PJ Clark's. I park the car, walk in PJ Clark's. But before that, let me go back. Let me step back for a minute. Tony Roach, John, can you use somebody giving me a car, Tony? Don't give me a fucking hard time. So Tony walks me over, gives me keys. Tony whispers in my ear, he says to me, Mark, whatever you do, don't open the glove compartment. Just keep it locked. If the car's registered, not under your name, don't worry about it. Just don't, So Tony, I got no reason to, he says. You know what I mean? Not thinking that, what's in there. I feel maybe he's got a gun in there or weapons in there. I don't know. It could be anything else. It's Tony Roach. Tony was not only a tough guy and, a shooter, he was also shooting in his arm. He had an addiction. He had a problem, and they saved him a ton of times. So I'm driving PJ Clark's. I go in there, I meet Jerry Beck, this guy. Suit, tie, gets up. He's sitting next to Jim Jensen from CBS News, that news anchor. They're sitting at a table drinking. Marco, yeah, hey Jerry, how you doing? Jim Jensen, oh, you around John? Oh, tell him I said say hello. Come on, this is the guy, they're cooking, they got a box. Cadillac hamburgers, they're called Cadillacs. Hamburger, bacon, cheese, huge hamburgers. They were famous for chili con carne, chili with beef in it, pots of it. Bring them back with the fries. That's it. A stack of them. How much is everything? $300. Give him everything. I give the guy $350. Give the cook the tip. Oh, tell him, Mr. Gotti, thank you. He's a gentleman. So take a bite of Jerry, and I take the food back. As I'm taking the food back, the glove compartment pops open. I hit a speed bump, and the glove compartment pops open. And I look to go. So I pull the car over. I stop to close the glove compartment. I look, and there's little vials. Little vials like this of white powder in it. Now, I didn't take drugs. I never did. And I said, oh, Tony Roach, she's got little vials, maybe 2 or 3 of drugs in a glove compartment. I'm driving a fucking car. Oh, geez, if I tell John's going to go ballistic. I said, Tony, what'd you jackpot me? I said, instead of driving 65, I drove 55. I made sure I didn't get pulled over. I got back, brought the food in, everybody ate. After we ate, I said, Tony, I says, why don't you take that stuff out of the glove compartment? He said, Mark, don't say nothing. I don't care. That's not my life. That's your life. I'm not going to tattletale. But do me a favor. Next time, give me a warning. He says, I know what to do. It's spur of the moment. Listen, you're going to get pulled over for that. That's it's a lot of time, which he eventually did go. He did do time for that, trying to sell drugs. He was hungry for money. He was a junkie. But I went back and we eaten all this food. Johnny's handing out hamburgers to everybody. But that's the level of John. So as we eat, okay, it's dessert time. Go to Carvel. Buy tubs of Carvel. Go to 108th Street, Atlantic Avenue. And he sit out there till 3 o'clock in the morning. Carvel, talking about sports. Guys would come visit. Once they find out John was out late in the neighborhood, wise guys from other crews. Hey, John, how you doing? How'd you? Somebody told me they saw Johnny out. I come by, say hello. Hey, you doing? Have some ice. This is the attraction. It was kind of, remember, it's only a couple of years I'm there. It's just building. That was the Bergen. Guys would go inside. Who wants to play cards? Start up a late continental game. Who showed up? Any chance that John had to gamble, he took it. Listen, that was his personality. He was a risk taker. You could tell. Look at his life. He was a risk taker. But he never let you feel less than him. If you made a mistake and fucked up, he let you know. And he let you know really fierce. Wouldn't raise his hands. I don't know how many guys that hung out in that club, he didn't smack around and abuse them. If you didn't listen to a talking, like a politician, like a CEO, or like a law enforcement, don't listen. It's wrong. That's it. You're punished. He wouldn't talk to you, or you wouldn't. This is how he did things. I don't know where he got this from. It was just him. I don't know if Charlie Wagons taught him or Neil, but it was about knowing that we're not perfect. So, like I said, I never questioned how he made his money. I never questioned that life. I knew, he gave me jobs, gave me a job in a horse room, gave me a job taking bets. That was it. I saw that was money. Picking up money for Angelo once in a while, not steady. Angelo would throw me $50. This is your progression. But they never, if I went to him and I was hurting, I'm telling you, flash, right in his pocket, $800. Take that for now. We'll find you something. So like I said, I'm not glorifying him. I think you should understand that he wasn't an ordinary guy in many aspects. And he climbed this climb. A lot of guys fail at it. Somehow he climbed it. And these guys he met after he climbed don't know this growth. They might have heard about him, but he was a lot of these guys that were in that life with him later on, when he became the boss, they weren't like him. Not even the same personality. A lot of guys were greedy. A lot of guys were selfish. A lot of guys were sticky. Johnny was out in the open about that, So that's why I wanted to tell the story. It's a long time. I had these stories in my head. No script, no teleprompter. I can go on. I have stories that'll make you laugh. You're going to shake your head and say to yourself, can that really happen? Did Johnny really do that? Or did Pete really do that? Or me? Or Willie Boy? When Kevin comes here, he's going to tell you stories with Willie Boy and John. Because they know each other since they're kids. And I heard stories how they met. Shane, Willie Boy was a CI for a long time. Disappointed a lot of people. Disappointed John. True story. After Frankie Chico passed away. But you know what? Let me not jump. But I want you to come back. These stories will grow with you. We're going to hopefully get more guests. We get some pictures. Maybe listen. Hopefully we get a show. We're going to reenact the club. I'm going to tell you about the club for a minute. The most telling point about John in the club, when you walked in the Bergen Hunt Fish Club, you had the TV, the couch, like a doctor's office couch. You had the card table with a cover on where people sat, had drink coffee, whatever hung out. You had the little side tables. You had a bar with a really old-fashioned double, triple pump, air pump espresso machine. Real classic, right? But you looked up and you had the kitchen door. And you had the back kitchen, refrigerator, oven. That's not much. Table, long table. People ate on a wood table, an old-fashioned wood table. But over the door, besides the other pictures and things about, over the door was a picture. A picture had to be, I don't think it was maybe 18 by 12. It was an Italian flag, some kind of artwork printed of Italian flag. To John, thank you, all your friends from Greenhaven. I think it was 1976 it said on it. I think it was 1976. The story I got from it, and they explained it, so what happened was Italian Day in Greenhaven Prison. Johnny organized an Italian Day, got food donated, fed all the guys, and he got a plaque when he left prison. Think about it. Think about how many guys get a plaque from guys in prison for feeding them or giving them an event day, visitors, Italian Day. It was a big deal to a lot of them guys that they made him this plaque. And Johnny hung it proudly because that's what he wanted, his acknowledgement. I did the right thing for them guys. And I saw that plaque, and you don't see plaques. I've been in a bunch of social clubs. You don't see thank you plaques or thank you paintings. You don't see them. But in a Bergen, it was there. And I know exactly where it goes, and we're going to recreate it, and we're going to see it, and you're going to understand about that club and that reputation, the Red Doors. No matter where you went, the Red Doors. Some guys are from the Red Doors. It's a big deal. From Howard Beach, Ozone Park, South Ozone Park, East New York, wherever you went, Brooklyn. Oh, guys are from the Red Doors. I got more stories coming up on the next episode. I have Kevin in some stories about us as I started learning how to make money more. Wasn't rich. A lot of guys weren't. If it, like I said, for every 100 guys, if 10 guys made a lot of money, but like Johnny says, go make the money. You got your opportunity. Go make the money. We're not gonna, it's not gonna grow on a tree. Not gonna fall out of the sky. And that's like in every life, business, work. More money work harder, use your mind. There's ways to make money. A lot of them are legal. Some of them are skirting the law. Most of them are that harmless vice, gambling, loan sharking, numbers, drinking. That, from prohibition, that's all vices that have been going on for centuries. Humans have these vices. Was there violence mixed in? Listen, there's wars. I'm not comparing them. There's people, stock market crashes. Thousands of people kill themselves. They didn't control the stocks. So this is part of the human factor. But for every good, there has to be bad. Otherwise, a lot of cops would go out of work. They wouldn't need a lot of cops or prosecutors because there'd be no bad guys. So I think one fed off the other for some reason. That's my, warped sense of humor. But to think about it, if there was no tough guys, think about how many cops wouldn't have jobs. Doesn't make it right, but, there's a balance. There's a yin and yang. There's a black and white, the up and down. Everything plays into it. So I want to tell you these stories. We're going to laugh. Listen, you're going to get the truth. No farcical crap or bullshit from me. If I have nothing to say about the truth, I won't say anything. I'll shut this down and move on. It's not about making money with this. It's about, I'm tired. We were tired, Kevin too, tired of the nonsense, of the false stories, of the liars. I'm not going to mention their names ever. They don't have to concern. Just listen to us, watch our show, subscribe, please. Subscribe, come back on, subscribe, hit the like. You got questions, you just want to say something nice, I'll respond to you, say thank you, or eventually we'll have questions for guys. But this is going to go on, this story. Hopefully we'll get into a network or we'll get on a show where we could do the show from the Bergen. Let's see. The more you guys latch on, join the club, the more you'll benefit from it. So thank you. I want everybody to enjoy your holiday, Passover, Easter, really. Enjoy your families, enjoy your life. Life's short. Life's quick, goes faster than you think. Johnny used to say it's like a racing car until the gas runs out, then the car stops running. So keep on going and be safe. Till next time, this is Big Mark. Ciao.